Restore or tear down and start over. Restoration shows on TV are among the few things fit to watch. The hosts who actually know how to restore a house and have the looks and personality for TV are few and fun to watch. Most focus on cosmetic changes, but a few take on projects requiring a massive, almost complete tear down and restart that seeks to capture the original look, though the end product contains little of the original house. Today's Throwback Thursday edition of Morning Minutes in the Bible on An American Missionary begins in 2 Kings 14:23 with our introduction to King Jeroboam II of Israel. Despite being no less evil than the first Jeroboam, the rebel who established the breakaway nation 150 years earlier, 1 Kings 12, this king presided over the restoration of Israel during a time of relative peace granted by God. 2 Kings 14 verses 24 through 27. In a similar sense, there is a great need for restoration of God's people today. But who, how, when, and where are important questions. Do we find an existing church and make cosmetic changes, or do we tear down and start over from the ground up? Or does true restoration start in the heart, yours and mine? Reaching back nearly 40 years to Plain Talk Magazine, January 1983. Restoration Concepts by David Smitherman. The plea in religious circles to restore is an old one. The restoration movement of the Campbell and Stone era was not new. Others, correctly or otherwise, have felt a need to restore, and concepts of restoration can be found in history as well as among us today. Joseph Smith sought a restoration of the gospel, based upon the false premise that the original gospel had been corrupted, 1 Nephi 13:32, he thought it was restored when he gave the Book of Mormon to men. Mormons also want to restore the church, and thus they vainly seek to restore the priesthood, prophets, and apostolic office. These concepts of restoration are obviously based on erroneous ideas and lead away from, rather than to, the truth. And there are also among us today some who would restore. But when appeals are made to Campbell, Stone, the Declaration and Address, the Restoration Brotherhood, and our Restoration Heritage, one wonders if all some want to restore is the Restoration movement itself. Others talk in a careless way of restoring the New Testament church and the proper name. But these concepts of restoration, if not carefully clarified, are as dangerous as the others. A restoration movement with Alexander Campbell at the center of it is no better than one with Joseph Smith as the focal point. One makes Campbellites, the other Mormons, and neither produces Christians. Those that seek a restoration of the church without an accurate concept of church have done us no favor either, and restorations that are merely outward are of no benefit. Simply changing the name we wear or the sign on the building does nothing to change the heart. And yet, true restoration is needed and can be had. It all depends. For one thing, the proper concept of restoration itself needs to be restored. We need to ask ourselves, what needs to be restored and how do we go about it? Ezra knew. Ezra set his heart to seek the law of Jehovah and to do it, and to teach in Israel statutes and ordinances. Ezra 7 verse 10. Restoring a proper regard in the hearts of men for God's will is the what, and teaching is the how. Then, restoration must begin with us. Appeals to others to forsake traditions and creeds and to do it the first century way will fall on deaf ears if we are unwilling to do the same. Romans 2:1 and verse 21. Restore New Testament Christianity. What a noble sentiment. Yet, if we better appreciated what is involved in this, I wonder if it would be really so attractive. Brethren, it just might mean that some drastic changes would have to take place in our thinking and practices if we did some true restoration. But after all, isn't that what restoration is all about? Thank you, David, for excellent thoughts on restoration. Sadly, Jeroboam II only restored Israel's might and power without eliminating the idolatry and moral corruption that permeated the people's hearts. As a result, it was merely momentary. What about you and me? Are we seeking to restore our hearts to fellowship with God, or just tinkering around with a few cosmetic changes so the world will consider buying our religious house? Only one of those has eternal value. Thank you for watching today's Throwback Thursday edition of Morning Minutes in the Bible on An American Missionary. Until next time, this is James McClenny hoping you have a great day.